Hey guys, this channel is called Today I Made a Mistake, and we are out here just making mistakes as we go through our lives. It will either be a good time or it's gonna be a good story.
Hi everybody, welcome to Tamam. Today I made a mistake. We're gonna be doing a Q&A about therapy. Why? Just because we can, and it's our channel and we decided to, so that's what we're doing.
This is my sister. Do we look the same?
No.
We do.
I literally have bigger eyes and smaller lips.
We have the same size lips.
I'm like mayo, you're like caramel.
By the way, I don't know the color of my skin. Do you know that?
Like coffee, and I'm like caramel.
Coffee. Is that the color of my skin?
No, it's got like you have an undertone of red. That's the problem. I have an undertone of like
yellow.
Orange. Yeah, yellow. Like the undertone is what determines your concealer.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna do a video on therapy today. Have my sister with me. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jade. I'm Marcel's sister, as known as my whole life.
Oh.
It's not sad. I think you think it's sad.
Okay. Okay, when did you first go to therapy?
The first time I ever went to therapy was in university. I was like, yo, something's wrong here. You switch it up. And I went to like a therapist for one session, and they were like, cool, we're gonna have 6 sessions and then we'll see how you're doing. And I never ever went back.
What made you be like, oh, something is wrong here, I need to go to therapy? What was happening?
I was like just in my room the whole day. I didn't have motivation. I didn't have interests. I just wanted to watch the world just go by and just be. And then I was doing that. And then I was like, well, this is how I know it's not okay, because something needs to change. I need to like do my university work. I'm at university to do this work. And it's something that I love. It's something that I'm very invested in. And yet, where is the motivation? That's how I knew.
So you had like continuously been in bed and like, oh, I want to watch the world go by. And then at some point you were like, actually, this doesn't feel right.
Literally, like, I think if I have the pictures, we need to put them here. But I feel like,
Pictures of what?
Let me show you. So like, if we have the pictures, we need to put them here, because I remember like sending a picture of my room to my friends, my res room, and like my bed literally had a dent where my body was lying. Like the blanket, you could literally tell the blanket was just on and off, on and off. You could tell that was the state of the blanket. The laptop was in prime depression mode, like right next to the bed, like just already in charge, ready to go. There were like food bowls and packets, and you couldn't see my floor at all. You could not see my floor. There were just clothes everywhere, and I wasn't bathing. I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't eating properly, nothing. And then like I sent a picture of my room to my friends to be like, hey guys, I finally picked up my pants, one pair of pants off the whole floor. And they were like, yo dude, your room is in prime depression mode right now. And I was like, you know it.
So you kind of had those people to speak to.
Definitely. I've always had like my friends to joke about it, because that's what we did.
How did they know that was a depression room? Did you know it was a depression room? Or like,
no, like when they said that, then I took a step back and looked at my room, and I'm like, fuck, this is high-key like prime depression mode. Like you can tell I have not put in any effort in my room the way it's situated, because I'm trying to use the least amount of effort in my daily anythings. And I was just sleeping and waking up and sleeping and waking up, and that's all I was doing like the whole day, whole night, for weeks.
Did you ever feel like you could open up to your family about something like this?
Yeah, definitely.
Honestly?
Yeah, it's not something that I try to hide. It's just not something that I knew.
It's kind of hard to communicate like how you're feeling or what you're thinking or what you're going through when you yourself don't know.
And it's like I know that I have depression and I know what depression feels like, but how do I communicate that to you when, okay, this is my thing. Very happy to tell my family what I'm going through and what I'm experiencing. However, everybody comes from a point of, how can I solve this problem? And I know this is not a problem that can be solved like immediately. So yes, I am opening to telling my family. However, there is like hesitation as to, I know there's no solution, so why would I burden you with a problem that has no solution?
What made you think that there was no solution?
The state that I was in. And being in it for so long.
And is it true that there was no solution?
No, definitely not.
Okay, so you were like, I'm not gonna go to my family and be like, hey, I'm depressed, because then they're gonna be like, how can we help you? What can we do? How can we make it better?
I felt like it was a burden. Like, as depressed people feel. They feel like their existence is a burden. So why must I now burden you guys with this problem that I think is unsolvable when I could just continue living because I've been continue living? And you, how did you know?
So the first time I went to therapy was in high school, and it was because mom actually was like, you need to go. I was in a state of like overachieving or high achieving, and I had very high expectations of myself to the point where it would make me get into a state of paralysis. Like I didn't want to do anything, and I was not feeling like I was achieving or doing enough or good enough with my school results, and it was a bad state, I guess. And mom knew that she could get a therapist from her work, so she knew like the services there. So she said, my daughter's distressed, or my daughter's, going through something and it's distressing me. So they paid for my therapy sessions. Yeah, it was hard. Yeah, that was the first time.
Fixed? Because I mean, like later in life, you became a workaholic.
So I went for one session, cried. Second session, the therapist was like, okay, I'm going to speak to your parents. I don't really know what happened in that session, but maybe she spoke to them and was like, okay, this is what I've picked up. And also, I guess, gave them coping mechanisms for me. And then I went back for a third session. So that was it. And it did help me at the time, because I also knew that like I understood that I could do my best, or I understood where
the limits
maybe what I was comparing myself to. And it might have, like, to this day I haven't really admitted it to myself, so I don't know if it's true. But I know that mom thinks that it was her, because I did compare it to, I always looked at her like, okay, when did you start working? She did really well in school. And I don't know if
you consciously? You consciously made her
the bar.
The bar.
The bar, yeah.
And that was stressing her out, that you were trying to reach her as a bar when you should just be in your own bar.
Exactly. And I kind of understood that afterwards. I don't really remember it. I know that was my first. I do remember it was helpful, but I don't remember what came out of it. And then I guess, this is a pattern of your life, and that's why it probably came up again when I was older.
Makes sense.
You said you went to 6 sessions of therapy, and
no, I went to one. I was supposed to have 6.
Yeah?
And then I just went to one and I never went again.
What happened in the first session?
I cried, spoke about how I feel like I'm depressed, but I also feel like the therapist won't believe that I'm depressed. Then she was like, why do you think I won't believe you? And I was like, I don't know. You're asking me questions, I'm giving you answers. Baby, stop asking me more questions.
That's like the part about therapy, is that you just wish they would be like, okay, this is what's wrong. Like a doctor, like, just diagnose me.
Please, write on your little righty scripty thing. Scribble your little lines.
She's broken.
Yeah.
And then I can go fix myself. Like, what is this thing about asking questions like...
I don't know the answers. Like, you say I have them in me, but that's where they stay. That's where they feel good. Inside, deep inside.
Like, bottle this thing up and don't open it up, ever.
Please. What was your first, realization or your first breakthrough?
First breakthrough. So, I don't remember the high school therapy sessions. And that was probably the first time. But my recent therapy sessions was realizing that what I had gone through with work was actually trauma. Because I was just like looking at it like, oh, this is just life, this just happens.
It's tough for everybody.
And dismissing it, and like, even though I had symptoms of depression and it was because of it, I never looked at that as I knew it was the starting point, but I never saw it as trauma. I always saw it as like part of life, which I guess trauma might be part of life. But it obviously affected me deeper than that. So, when my therapist was like, when I would call it like a situation, and it should be like a traumatic situation. And even in the first video that I put out, I was like, how my therapist classified it, I've still not been like, this is trauma. Because I think when you admit that something is trauma,
it becomes real.
And like
scary.
Yeah, and like it's like
so all the connotation of trauma now are attached to this thing that I'm calling trauma. And I don't want to attach all the connotations of trauma to this thing because it was traumatic enough as it was.
Yeah, and I guess it's like you kind of do think that bad things don't happen to you. Or maybe it's just an assumption that that's life.
Or like, my life is good, everything seems fine. I don't think I go through things like this.
Yeah. Other people have trauma.
Other people have depression.
Or trauma is something hectic. Like you witnessed a murder. That's trauma. Not overworked.
Yeah. Like your work told you to stay in a couple more hours and I stayed in extra.
Exactly.
And I got paid for it.
And I also think it's a thing of like, it's so normalized.
To overwork.
It's so like, oh, I didn't sleep last night. It's like, not like,
it's like
you didn't sleep. It's like, secretly you're thinking, oh, this person works so hard. Also, yeah, this person works so hard that they didn't sleep. It's not something to be celebrated.
Your first breakthrough was realizing that your trauma at work was actually trauma.
Yeah, admitting that I had trauma and what the trauma was. And the breakthrough was realizing that it was a trauma. Because that is kind of how I started to deal with it. What was your first breakthrough?
I don't know. I think I break through in stages. I don't think I ever have like, oh, this is the realization. It's more like there is this thing that's gnawing at the back of my brain that needs to come to the front of my brain. And then it comes to the front of my brain. Okay, is when it's in the front of my brain, that's when it's a breakthrough?
Yes, but I think what you said about it's in stages, it's like, it's not like a switch. Epiphany. These are the answers. It is stages, because like, if you think about how far your trauma goes, like a situation happens that triggers it, but there's something deeper than that. So it is like, I have to bring all of that forward. So what was it?
My first breakthrough, I think, was realizing that I lack self-confidence. And like, I always knew I wasn't the most confident person. Like, that's fair, that's fine. Like, you can be a non-confident person, but like, my first breakthrough was realizing how deep my self-worth and my self-confidence and the lack of like all of that, how deep it actually went, of like, oh fuck, it's not that you just don't like yourself. Like, girl, you don't anything yourself. You
don't rate yourself.
You don't you don't even know where the scale is to rate yourself. See the scale away, like,
oh, wow, that's like, deep.
I literally had no like self-worth, because all my worth was put in what I can do for others and how much can I do for somebody else and how can I make that person feel, not in how can I make myself feel and what can I do for myself. And that gets reaffirmed because of the way our society is. People love people without needs. The more you can do for me and not have a need, the more you're valued as a person.
Wow.
So like, that me not having self-worth and me not having confidence was reaffirmed by everybody in my life of, Jade's so helpful, Jade's so generous, Jade's so kind, Jade's so nice. And those are nice things to hear. You want to hear that, especially if you don't have self-esteem. And I'm going to latch onto everything. And my idea of myself was what people had said about me. And that was always my idea of myself. My parents, I grew up, my parents were saying, Jade is so determined, Jade is so this way, Jade is so that way. And I believe I am so determined, I am so this way, I am so that way, because my parents said so. I am so kind because my friend said so. I am so this because not because I am that way and I believe that I am that way, or I behave that way, therefore I am that way. Someone said I was this way, I must be this way, therefore I am this way, therefore I will behave this way because they said I'm this way, and I need to like uphold what they said because they said I was that way, and I don't want to all my worth was in what people said.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any for myself, and realizing how deep that went, that was my first breakthrough, because I thought, everybody has self-deprecating jokes, everybody doesn't like themselves, everybody has those days, but
everybody has those days.
Knows what I'm talking about. Everybody gets that way. But yeah, like that was my first breakthrough, realizing like, you don't care to the point of like you're not brushing your teeth or eating or bathing because you don't care about the vessel that your soul is in.
So that's so interesting. I had like so many questions come to my mind, but I was just listening to what you said. I think when we attach like you're so kind and you're so determined, it's also when the negative things come, you also
100%.
There's value in that as well,
because you're putting all your worth in people's words, and people's words are not always nice.
Yeah.
And so you're not only holding on to those good things, but you're also holding on to those bad. Jade's so manipulative. I'm manipulative. I guess I'm manipulative.
And how do you deal with something like that? Because words of affirmation for some people is a love language. I'm starting to realize that might be for me. And when someone says something, do you feel like you're in a place of the confidence coming from yourself?
I definitely don't think that I'm like have that God complex that I wish like I had. Like, okay, listen, I'm not saying being mentally spicy is a great way to live your life, but if you're gonna be mentally spicy, at least have a God complex, because that's great. Imagine, you know what a God complex is?
No, what's mentally spicy?
Mentally ill.
Oh. Okay.
At least have a God complex, because then you're like, I am great and everything about me is great and everything in the world is great and everything I do is
delusional.
Great. Literally being delusional. You have a God complex. You think you are a God and nothing you do is wrong. Kind of like being narcissistic. But if I was mentally spicy, and I could choose, that is one of the symptoms I want. Rather than having low self-esteem and low self-worth and not caring about myself, I'd rather, like
you'd rather not have empathy for people.
Ends of the spectrum. I mean, like you're mentally disturbed. Either way, things are wrong. I just
rather bring harm to other people than to yourself. That's what you're.
That's the space I'm in right now. I'm in the space of like, fuck everybody, because I gave so much like fucks before.
And like, how old are you now?
23, 24 this year.
So hectic, like being 24 years and living your whole life for 24 years, which is a long freaking time. And this is how,
like I literally, like I said, like recently I've been realizing that I'm intelligent.
Yeah, which is insane because you've always been intelligent.
No one has ever told me, Jade, you are smart. Jade, you are so intelligent. Jade, your brain is so wise. No one has ever said those words to me, so I never thought that that's who I am or that's what I was. And my grades in school never reflected that. And even when I did get high grades, it's because you're really interested in this grade and you're really enthusiastic, and that's why you're doing well. And no one has ever said to me, Jade, you're really smart, so I never. But now I'm in a space of affirming myself and in a space of realizing who I am and gaining that confidence and that self-evaluation. And I realize myself, I'm smart. And every time I see something smart that I've done or something smart that I've said, I have to mentally check that in on myself. Jade, that was really smart. And I have to be those words of validation for myself now.
And I think Lungi is a good example of that. It's like, you look at Lungi, besides him being like, good job, mom, like a lot of the things that he's learned from you. So when he's doing stuff and we look at him and he's like, wow, you're a genius, you're so smart, like, where did that come from? But the other thing is, like, there are times where our parents would be like, oh, that was so smart. So
I just think it is the negative bias as well. I pay attention to the non-smart words. Like, I remember one time mom telling me, like, I was in high school at the time that she told me. She was telling me how in primary school I never applied myself, and she was like crying and worried because they didn't know what to do and how to get me to apply right, how to apply myself. They thought that I was like a special needs kid, or that like I just wasn't putting in effort and they don't know how to like enforce this effort, when really I just didn't know I needed to put in effort. If they just said put in effort, I would have put in effort, but all they said is do your best, and I thought my best was just doing nothing.
Yeah, the other thing is like,
I do think mom and dad definitely had words of affirmation for me. Definitely.
Yeah. For me, it's, and this is probably a separate video on its own, but it's like how much a parent assigns to your achievements as well, which is pressure. But pressure, but like you don't realize it because it's just the way life is. But it's also for me, I'm like sad for them, because what I choose to do in my life is what I'm going to choose to do in my life, and probably has nothing to, not nothing, but like, I'm going to choose it no matter what you've taught me. So for them to think like, oh, like, why was she crying? Because she was worried about you and how you were going to like survive in the world, obviously, and her as a parent, and how she was going to, what did she need to do to help you survive in the world? But that's too much pressure for her to put on herself as well.
The pressure of being parents.
Yeah.
What I can say is that I've learned that when you are encouraging a child, you shouldn't say, oh, good job, well done, you did that thing, like, brilliant, high five. You must just state the thing that they did. Oh, you read a book. Not good job, well done, you finished that book. Oh, you finished that book. Not good job, well done, you drew a car. Oh, you drew a car. Because then your tone is expressing that you are proud of them, but the word you are saying is bringing it back to what they actually did, not them completing the task, not them doing the task, not the effort they put into the task, not the quality of the task. No, the fact that they actually did the task. Oh, you're sitting in a chair right now. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. But the fact that you're sitting in a chair, and I'm telling you in a proud way, like, oh, you're sitting in a chair, now you're happy to be sitting in a chair. I don't think that you shouldn't congratulate your child at all, like ever. Like, don't ever say good job.
But then isn't there a thing of like, I guess the good thing about that is that it creates ambiguity, and they're not always trying to achieve, which is where a lot of people in our generation are at. Like, they need to be achieving to receive love. That feels like the condition for love. Or what we associate as love, even though like our parents might not have meant it that way. But then when you don't, I don't know, maybe it's because I just don't know if that's a good thing. Like,
I don't know. We'll see.
The thing about being a parent, like, how is parenting trial and error? A human life.
It's like we're baking a cake, but we don't know what ingredients to put in. We're just gonna see what happens at the end.
It's the recipe that you don't have. You have the ingredients.
Oh.
You just don't have the recipe.
So we'll see, like, when the time the cake comes out of the oven, if it's a good cake or not. We are the Try Guys. And welcome to Without a Recipe, Parent Edition. Hi, everybody. We switched places.
What did you think therapy was gonna be like versus like what it actually is for you?
I thought therapy was going to be like, I'm going to lie down on, like the movies. I'm going to lie down on a couch. Going to be some smarty with a clipboard and some glasses. So how do you feel about that? And in reality, it's literally that. But instead, I'm sitting on a couch. I'm sitting on the couch in front of the smarty. There's no clipboards, but she does have glasses. And she's like, so how does that make you feel? What is that feeling? What are the sensations in your... And I'm like, whoa, this is way beyond what I thought. Because, like, in the movies you hear, how do you feel about that? In real life, it's like, how do you feel about that? What is that feeling? Where is that feeling? How does the feeling feel? How does the feeling go? Like,
where in your body is the feeling?
I was not prepared. But yeah, that's that. And for you?
For me, what did I think therapy was like? Like, I also thought it was sitting on a couch, like, oh, I have these problems. And then the person is like, And my first session when I was in high school, it was like that, but I didn't realize how therapeutic it would be.
Wow.
And I guess like, okay, so I think for my first version of therapy, like maybe it wasn't that great because I didn't want to go back. But my second version of like in the last 2 years, it's got me to open up more. It's validated how I felt, helped me see things more clearly. I have like way more trust in professionals. Like I've seen so many doctors this year that like
You know what they're doing.
I know how they can help me. I've seen it help me.
What's the funniest thing you've experienced in therapy?
In therapy, like nothing really funny. I think when you and I speak about it afterwards, we like laugh about like,
Definitely.
for example, like, oh, what do you feel in your body? And we're just joking. But in therapy, it's like there is no feeling of the therapy session. What you're feeling is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So,
what do you think my question is?
Sorry, wait, what was your
Yeah. What is the funniest thing you've experienced?
Yeah, I haven't really had anything like funny.
I think the funniest thing is like when I know I'm in denial, like me, myself, I know I'm in denial, but I'm trying to stay there. I'm trying to stay there, and my therapist is like, we are not trying to stay there. We are not you trying to stay there. We're not trying to stay there.
Yeah, it is
I
funny.
think it's funny. Like
when you think you've pulled the wool over their eyes and sometimes they leave you. They're just like,
really, okay.
Like obviously you're not ready to speak about it. But sometimes they're just like,
my guy, you're here. I'm here. We both know what's going on here.
The funniest thing that ever happened to me in therapy, I had just started going to therapy and we had come to this thing that like, oh, I don't feel my emotions. And then I was speaking about something and I got really sad about it. And like tears started to well. I wasn't crying, but tears started to well up in my eyes. And then she's like, what is that you're feeling right now? And I was like nothing.
I don't know.
And I'm like, so then she said, are you feeling sad? And I was like, no. With a tear.
No, I'm not sad.
And then she's like, because we don't feel emotions, right? And that would be horrible if we were sad.
And she wrote it
down. So it doesn't, not ready to open up.
No, I'm not sad.
I'm like, what? But it was funny when she literally, because you know she wears glasses, she looked over her glasses and she was like, yeah, because we don't feel emotions here, right?
Yeah, see, that's funny. It's like that. It's like when you're still in denial and you want to live in that denial, and she's like,
over the glasses.
It's that look over the glasses. We see the same practitioner.
How did you find your therapist? Oh, is therapist the wrong word?
Yeah, she's a social worker.
How did you find your psychologist? How did you find your
practitioner?
How did you find your practitioner?
Through you. I was going through another rough time. You know, like when you're spicy and you don't get help, you just stay spicy. I was going through another rough time. And
it's also a mental condition. Okay? It's not an illness.
Sure. When you are in your condition and you don't treat your condition, the condition stays. So there I was staying in the condition and I just wasn't at a point where I could push myself to get help. So you pushed me to get the help. You were like, I've booked this appointment. It's at this time. You can go if you want. You don't have to, but I think you should. And so I went. I'm not even lying. That's how it went.
I know you had been asking me for a long time for my therapist, for the doctor's details.
That's not true. I think that's how you experienced it.
How I experienced it is that you had been asking me for a while, like, send me her details. And it was months because like at that time I was working and like doing admin stuff was hard. So just like opening up an email and getting a number, forwarding an email, getting contact, it was just hard.
Yeah, you were going through your own things.
Yeah. So I think only when I was able to step back and take a moment was when I was able to.
What I remember is that I was going through a rough time and you kept checking up on me because you could see it wasn't good, and you were like, I should give you this number, I should give you this number, I should give you this number, and you just didn't.
Yeah.
And then the one day I had like a full-on breakdown in the kitchen in Kailami. Remember? I called you, and then we were voice noting or something, and you were worried about me because I had just moved to Joburg. No, I was about to move to Joburg. This was like before I was about to move to Joburg, but I was like staying here and I was already having a breakdown, and you were like, listen, you need to see this lady, I've booked it for you.
Yeah.
Big sister privileges.
Little sister privileges. Big sister responsibilities.
I mean, like you
having a big sister privileges.
Yeah.
What was the question?
How did you find?
I was actually at a friend's house, and we always used to have deep conversations whenever we spoke, and she knew I was going through the shit, as much as even I didn't admit it. You know, she knew I was having a hard time. I remember once after work, I had been crying and I'd gone to her house and like, so I think she kind of had this image that like,
you need help.
Because of work. Which was true, but it was the only version of me that she saw. Anyway, she had the business card of this doctor, and she was like, here, if you ever need. And I just kept the business card for a long time. And then one day I was like, you know what? Let me make an appointment, and emailed her, and then that's how, yeah.
Cool. Thank you to that friend.
Or Shekinah.
Ooh, thank you, Shekinah. How will you know when to stop, or when do you think that you'll get to a point when you're like, okay, this is enough therapy. I'm self-actualized, enough.
Well, I was going to... So it's on and off because, like, sometimes you just don't want to talk. Sometimes you really, really need... Sometimes you're looking forward to that, like, 1 week, that day. But after I'd gone to the day clinic and, like, worked through this trauma, I was good. And even my therapist was like, I think you're in a good space now. So she didn't tell me we need to see each other less. But she did say something that, like...
Along the lines where you were like, okay, I can pull back.
Yeah. And, yeah, I felt that I was not needing as much. And I still contact her sometimes just to talk through things, because I think it's constantly... What helped me being with this psychologist is that she held me accountable to my thoughts and actions, and validated me, and then helped me see things very clearly. Whereas, like, this, if I'm speaking to a friend and I'm getting advice,
it's very biased.
It is biased and unintentionally. And they're also trying to give you advice, and the therapists don't actually give you advice. They don't give you advice. So I still go see her sometimes when I kind of feel like I need clarity, which, you know.
Yeah, that's helpful.
So it did get to a place where I was like, I'm good.
Stop.
Yeah.
But you don't think you'll ever get to a place where you completely just stop?
Yeah, because I think you're growing. You're always growing. So there are points in your life. There are different things. That was one thing I was working through, and I did work through it. So cool. Done with that. But... And there's also other things. You don't have to go to a psychologist, you know?
Yeah.
There's other forms of...
therapy. You could go to art therapy. You could go to, like... What's the acupuncture therapy?
Hypnosis.
Yoga therapy. Hypnosis. Sell yourself to Satan.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know when it'll be enough, but I think I'm reaching a point of, like, I'm ready to stop seeing my therapist. But then
why are we calling her a therapist?
Okay, practitioner. Whenever I see the practitioner, I am very thankful that I'm seeing her. I'm like, okay, I needed this. But then just before I see the practitioner, I'm like, do I really need to go? Do I have anything to say? I don't feel like I'm stressed right now, and I don't think I have anything to like get off or to work through, so I'm fine. And then I get there, and by the end of the session, I'm like, that was a really good session. Thank you. I'm so glad I had this time with you.
It's like exercise. Like, I don't want to go to the gym right now. I don't want to exercise. But then when you're done, you're like,
ooh, my body. Yeah.
And in the long term, you see the effects of it. It's like exercise for your brain, so for your thoughts, or whatever.
So like, I think I'm getting to a point where I don't need to see the practitioner as often, and maybe I'll stop. But when do the problems stop?
What was your biggest fear going into therapy?
Myself.
Yourself.
Myself. Like I think it's most people's fears when they go into therapy, like the demons they have to face. They know that it's scary in the closet or underneath the bed, so might as well just keep the lights on and stay on the bed. Why go looking for the monsters when you know they're there? And you always know, like as a human being who has lived with yourself your whole life, you know what's in the cupboard and underneath the bed, but you just don't want to admit. And it's scary because you're not putting a face to it, you're not putting a name to it, you're not putting a body to it. You're just saying they're demons or they're monsters or they're scary or they're things I don't want to deal with. So they get bigger and bigger every time you think about them, and they get scarier and scarier. And the more you let them fester and the more you let them sit, the more you feed them. Because the more you'll think about them and the more you'll deny them, and the more you deny them, the more hungry they get. And I think it's scary to go there and face what's under your bed and what's in your closet and getting to know every part of you. There are good parts of yourself, and you will also find those good parts in the cupboard and underneath the bed, but there are bad parts that you are actively trying to avoid, and you have to go face that, and it's scary. So that was scary for me.
For me, exactly the same, in that, like I said to you once, I don't want to be woke. Ignorance is bliss. I don't want to know the truths of the world. I don't want to know. Like, let me just live my life like this. And
the thing about truths is that they don't hide. Truths will find a light.
True. And there was this quote that I read when I went to this museum that was like something like the problem with the truth is that it's not that it's not nice, but like
it hurts.
It's hard to hear.
Yes.
The truth is...
The problem with the truth is that it hurts?
No.
The truth hurts?
No, it wasn't about hurt feelings. It was like...
It's
the
hard to hear.
The problem with the truth is that it's not the nice version.
Yeah, yes.
Something like that. And... lost my train of thought completely. But for me, it's... I didn't want to come into the light, or I wanted to remain in my bliss because I actually knew how to cope with that. So it's like, rather the devil, you know.
Yeah.
I knew that the demons were under the bed or in the closet. Cool.
Now why do
I need to let them out? Because then where do they go?
Where do they go?
Or what happens when they... Exactly. I know they're under the bed. They're under the bed. They're staying there. They're in the closet. They're staying there. But the truth is... other people look under your bed.
Exactly.
Other people open your closet, and that's when they do come out. They come out as triggers. They come out as
when you interact with people,
because people don't know what your triggers are, and then you don't have the same triggers as someone else, so it comes out. It does come out.
Definitely does.
And only when I like opened the closet, greeted the demons, was when I was like, you know what? You were scarier in my mind.
100%. Always scarier in the mind than actually facing it. Like, facing the things that are under your bed and in your closet are scary because they're scary things. But when you go through it, you're like, it was scarier thinking about it than doing it.
It was way worse thinking about it. My anticipation to meeting the demons was way worse. When someone else opened my closet or looked under my bed, the reaction was way worse than when I went through it myself. And like, you can even think of it in a way, like I was speaking to a friend and he was like, whenever I disagree with someone, I always like take the argument back to myself because I want to lose the argument with myself. Because I'm not trying to lose to them, you know? And that's kind of the same thing. You need to deal with those things.
Yeah.
You need to deal with those things. And we're calling them demons, which is quite hectic. But it really is not as hectic. It isn't easy to go through, I don't think. It's not easy.
It's hard work, and it is effort.
It's work. I don't think it's hard. Do you think it's hard?
Depending on the demon. I mean, like, okay, for me personally, I have to fight the demon of like low self-esteem and bad self-worth. And for somebody that might not be a big demon, but for me, it's like one of my biggest. So for me, it's hard work. It's hard work I can't just sit in the mirror and be like, you're beautiful, you're strong, you can do this. I have to literally go and put the kettle on and be like, look at that, you did that yourself. You are capable of doing things yourself. You are able and you are worthy because you do it yourself.
And is you saying that to yourself hard, or is it work?
It's hard because I never knew how to do it before. And now I'm completely training myself. And when you start from the beginning, it's hard when you start from the
because you're not trying to build a new habit.
Exactly.
And once it becomes a habit, it's
going to be
easy.
It's gonna be
and
fun.
I think that's what it is. It's that you need to...
It's like running. Starting running is the hardest part about running, but once you got going, you're going.
Yeah, building a habit is difficult. But as you keep practicing it, it does become almost second nature.
Apparently, it only takes 21 days.
It takes 30 for me.
It takes like a year for me. I think like another fear I had was going to therapy would affirm the doubt that I have and the doubt that I hold. Like, oh yes, you actually really are a piece of shit.
Yes.
Like that is scary. Like scared. I was scared I was gonna go there and be like, I'm worried that everybody hates me, and she's gonna be like, yeah, everybody does hate you
because you did this, and this.
Yeah, you suck as a human being. Like, be a better human being.
Yeah.
Like, that's scary. That's scary to hear, and that could possibly be what happens when you go to therapy. I don't know your plight, but I was scared that was gonna happen to me.
I also had that fear, but I don't think that happens in therapy.
I don't think anybody would go through that. Like, you're a piece of shit.
Because I definitely thought I was broken, and I thought that see, this is probably why I had an issue with you calling it hard work, is that I thought that whatever I go to therapy for is going to be over and above and on top and things that I have to work through. But instead it almost like cleaned things to make it clear. It wasn't like extra activities that I needed to do. It like, I don't know, put things
made things manageable. Therapy
so
makes
like
things manageable.
It's like if you have a cupboard that just has like a whole lot of stuff in it, and then the cupboard is organized, but organized in a way that this container is always for this and this container is always for this, so when you need that you can open it, or so it's not just a mess. You still
like
have
cleaning the cupboard is work.
It's so hard. I hate it. When you look at that cupboard and it's a mess, I hate it.
But then once you've cleaned the cupboard and it's nice and organized, there's space, there's air to breathe, there's time, it's manageable.
When you need to look for something, you know exactly where to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to cause a mess by you opening it. Mm-hmm. It's not going to cause a mess to everything else.
Yeah, I think like even that analogy still like affirms what I think, that like what's hard work for me isn't hard work for you, because cleaning that organizing that cupboard is work for you, but it's not pleasurable. But for me, it's hard work to clean this cupboard. Hard work. Okay. I think therapy's hard work. Personally, I don't think it's work.
Maybe for me, it's like it's worth it. That's why I don't see it as hard.
No, it's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth it. But when you have breakthroughs and when you have realizations, it's very tiring. Like, I'm very happy that they happen, but they're tiring because now you have to adjust your life. You have to adjust your whole life. Like, I know better now. I can think better now. I can be healthier now. And now I can't just be comfortable and continue living the way that I used to live, because I've learned that way is not helpful. And so now I have to change the way I live. And that my whole life I've been living that way. So it's hard. It's hard. What is something you realized about yourself that you wish you didn't? That is a good question to have after your last one.
I don't know. There's nothing that I've actually faced that I've been like, oh, wait. Realizing that I have conditions on the people that are in my life, and that's why I push them away. That I have rules for who is trustworthy and who I can trust, and that I see the world as a bad place, you know, like people are out to hurt you and people are out to get you, which is like, okay, cool, yeah, not everybody is, but it's also because of their demons, but like, you don't have to approach every single situation from a protection point of view. And I've walked away from a lot of situations, especially with interpersonal relationships, and people who I could have had good relationships with, specifically like romantic relationships. Walked away from them because I'm like, down the line, this is not going to work out anyway. So why should I let me hurt myself now?
Instead of prolonging the hurt for maybe later when you do it.
And me anticipating, oh, maybe this, when is the hurt going to come? When is it going to come? And like sabotaging those situations. So realizing that I had rules on my interpersonal relationships, because it also goes down to friendships. Like, always had this thing that only after I'd known you for 3 years are we actually friends. And in that way, you don't open up. So then people don't really get to know you. And it's rather people get to know you and decide that this is not the kind of person that I want in my life. Then get to know a pleasant version of you. And then when you reveal your true self,
they're like, I don't vibe.
Rather, I don't know. I actually am still working through it. But what I realized about the rules that I have in my life and how I approach interpersonal relationships is that in the future, if I'm pushing everybody away, what will happen? Where do I expect this to end?
Where will you be left with?
What will I be left with? So for me, it's like realizing that I'm really tough on people and that I am pushing people away, not that like people are leaving me.
For me, it was realizing that I was a people pleaser because I didn't think that I was. I thought that I was a difficult person because that's what I was told. Like, you're very difficult. All you like to do is argue. You have an answer for everything. You have a big mouth. Like, so I thought I was a difficult person. I didn't think I was a people pleaser. And only through therapy did I realize that it's the whole, like, putting my worth in people's words. I want to please people so that I can feel good about myself. Yeah. And I didn't know that I was doing that. I remember the practitioner was like, you're working too hard to be the perfect mother, to be the perfect girlfriend, to be the perfect daughter, to be the perfect sister. What about you? When are you going to be the perfect self? How are you going to be the perfect self? Like, when do you take time to even do anything for yourself? I was like, I'm not trying to be perfect. I just want to be like the best. And then that's when I, whose standards. Yeah, exactly. And then that's when I realized, like, maybe I am a people pleaser, and maybe like this whole putting my worth into what other people is just not, it's not beneficial, it's not helpful, and it's, yeah, that's something I learned that I didn't know and didn't like, because I don't want to be a people pleaser. I want to be a person who's like difficult.
Let's talk about this people pleasing thing, because it didn't come up for me in therapy, but it did come up for me from a friend. Like, they were like,
you're very accommodating.
No, they said the user was, you're a people pleaser. And when they said that, I was like horrified. Like, first of all, why are we horrified by people who people please? It's such a bad thing. It's like, you're a people pleaser is an insult. It's not like you actually want to make people feel comfortable or anything like that. Okay, so that's one part of it. And then
I don't know if I agree with that, because like I said in the beginning, people love people who don't have needs, and people pleasers are the people who don't have needs. People love if you can attend to them and serve them without wanting anything in return. People love that. And I think the negative connotation of people pleasing comes from the people pleaser themselves. Oh, you think what I'm doing isn't genuine, you think I'm just doing it to please you. Really, you are. So the person who's being called people pleased feels attacked because they feel like they're being called disingenuous.
I think what I'm struggling with the most is empathy. Just in this period of my life, it would be called struggling with empathy.
It's the chapter we're in right now.
But like, I guess, like, where's the line between you are people pleasing and you are being generous?
When you do it to the detriment of yourself, you're people pleasing. When you're doing it to the extent that you are able to and still survive, you are generous.
How did you know therapy was working?
When I felt like it wasn't for the longest time, I'm not gonna lie. I felt like I'm here every week talking and crying and discussing and like opening these wounds that hurt. And like, yes, I feel good afterwards, but like, what is actually changing? What is actually happening? Like, I only feel good after each session because like I've cried out things I've needed to cry out, so I've talked about the things I needed to talk about. But in the long run, what is the rewards I'm reaping? And I only think like only recently have I been seeing that, wow, I'm becoming more confident and I am taking more care of myself and I am able and I am capable and things are more manageable than I thought they were. And I've been given skills that make things manageable. So that's how I know it's working, because I'm using the skills that I've been taught, and the skills help in the situations that I'm using them in. That's how I know. And you? How do you know it's working?
Because things can happen to me and I don't have the same reactions to them. So if someone says something to me that is very hurtful, I can recognize that it is hurtful, but I know how to move past it. Or if I'm sad about something that had happened, I know that I need to sit in the sad, and I've changed the way I've looked at like negative emotions. So in addition to everything that you said, it's just also like a new perspective of how I view things in life, being a little bit more forgiving of myself, having less shame about the things that I feel or the ways that I think, how I interact with other people. It's just something that I'm still learning, working on. Understanding like not what is okay and what is not okay, but
expanding your knowledge on it.
Yeah. But for me, the core of it is how I can respond to people.
Yeah.
Or interactions or things.
Yeah.
And I
like, I know therapy is working, because when I wake up, the level bar on top of my head says level up.
Yeah. I have energy for the day.
XP required, knows how to deal with calls.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. If you could give advice to yourself at the age of 5, at the age of 16, and at the age of 20, what advice would you give yourself?
I'm not giving advice to a 5-year-old, okay?
Why?
What advice does a 5-year-old need?
Well, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a good job.
Is that advice?
As much fun as you can. Experience as much as you can. Do what you love. What, kids just don't deserve advice?
Not that they don't deserve advice, but like...
You as a 5-year-old, what did you need to hear from you now?
I don't know.
How does that make you feel?
I pay someone for this, and it's not you. Okay, you go first.
Okay. Advice I would give to my 5-year-old self. I don't know what I was doing at the age of 5. I think the advice that I would give to myself is to just be brave. I don't think I was a brave kid. Just continue to be brave. The advice I would give myself at the age of 16 is to... there's many things I could tell my 16-year-old self. To just do your own thing and not care about people's opinions. Just do your own thing. Do what makes you happy. Do things that feel fun, not things because everybody else is doing the thing, or things because everybody else says they're fun. Things that you actually enjoy, things that you actually love. That's my advice to 16-year-old me. Advice to 20-year-old me. I'm only 23. So my 20-year-old me, my advice is use protection. 20-year-old me, use protection.
What?
But don't, because like I love my son.
Oh.
What?
Oh.
You don't love my son?
I love your son. I didn't know that's what you were going.
Oh wait.
I thought like you were going somewhere else. What advice would you give to your future self? Or what question would you ask your future self?
How much time does time need till things are sorted out? How much time does
when will
time
this
need?
be over?
Yeah. Till things are sorted out. I just want to ask my future self. Because, like, the thing is, I'm going to ask my future self. I don't even know if that future self has the answer. Like, when will we be stable?
Your future self does have the answer. They're your future self.
But, like, the future self for me tomorrow doesn't know the answer. But my future self for me, like, 20 years might. Is what I'm saying. Like, what future self am I speaking to?
Maybe the future self tomorrow will know the answer.
I just want to know when things will be stable.
What if there's
things
no
are
answer?
stable? Things are stable, actually.
Exactly.
Okay, the future self. What question am I asking? I'm going to ask...
It's fine. Think about it. I'll tell you my answer. 5-year-old self, I think you were like 1 year old when I was 5. And I've always, since then, been a bigger sister. It's part of my identity. So maybe like your sister's your friend, you know. She's not your child. Like she's your companion. To my 5-year-old self, just to be friends with as we go up in the years.
I mean, you didn't know it was your first time being a big sister, and all you saw were parents parenting. So
yeah, but I'd still tell my 5-year-old self.
No, and then your 5-year-old self. No, but I'm saying.
You're saying, let it go.
No, I'm
saying. Let it go. Let your childhood trauma go.
Sure.
To my 16-year-old self, I would say... I want to say stay focused, but I'm like, that's not what...
That's not it.
Yeah?
That's not the one. Not at that age. Give yourself a break.
You're okay. No matter what you're doing, you're okay.
Yeah, that's something everybody needs to hear.
Like... Because for me, it's like, when I was 16, I was trying to be cool. Wasn't focused on I was just like a bit lost.
Yeah.
So, but my life still was great. And I did do the right things then. So just do what you were doing. Just like...
You're good. You're on the right track.
Even if you made mistakes, like, literally they made you the way you are right now.
Literally.
To my 20-year-old self, which was 7 years ago, it's not that deep, man.
What?
So at 20 years old, I was definitely crying over exams. I was definitely like, how am I going to write this exam? I'm going to do so bad. I studied so hard and I'm not going to do well. Like, you could study so hard, you could do well, you could not study, you could do well. Like, you actually don't have control over... You can only do what you can do.
Yep.
And you have done as much as you can do.
Yep.
Don't expect yourself to do more than that.
Yep.
You are doing fine.
I think it's so crazy we grew up in the same household with the same parents, the same amount of time, and you heard them say, do your best, and that meant overachieve. And I heard them say, do your best, and it meant don't try at all.
It just, like, shows how you perceive things.
Yeah, literally. I think it's so funny. It's so crazy.
Future selves?
Um,
Question to my future self.
What are the lottery numbers?
You have the lottery numbers.
444. You heard it here first.
There's like 6, 8, or 8.
I don't know how the lottery works.
I would ask my future self, like...
Are you still doing things that make you happy? That's what I would ask.
That's a good question. That is a great question. Because that's like the goal.
Do you like it? Should it be the goal?
Yeah.
How can happiness be a goal when it's fleeting?
Oh.
When you cannot capture it?
Okay.
What's yours?
That's mine as well.
Before we started this,
I was struggling.
before we started this, she said, "Don't steal my first question." Here she is stealing my answer.
Questions are unacceptable to steal. No, for me, like the reason I agree that happiness, because that means anything. I was gonna say, like, I wanted to ask myself, like, will I be happy? It was something like that, and then I was like, but that's dependent on what I choose.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask myself, will I find the right companionship? But then I'm like, that depends on how I live my life. And I wanted to ask my future self, like, will I open up? But I know that the answer to that is yes. So that's why it's like,
are you still doing things that make you happy?
It's so open-ended.
Exactly. Are you still painting? Are you still loving the man you love?
It could be that. It could be that. It could be. Am I painting?
Have children?
Or it could be that. Or maybe I have pets. Or like, maybe what I love is to take care of my family. Or
100%.
Could be anything.
100%.
We have said enough. This is my sister.
This is my sister. And we are sisters. Thank you for joining us.